And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you came back for more. Folks, I have good news for you. We have a lot more for you. We got a great guest today, seasoned podcaster. He and I have been jiving in the pre-interview for a couple minutes. This guy's been around. He's got great stories. He's got a book. You're going to love every minute of this. I want to thank all you folks for everything you've done and for supporting us because this is the podcast that's about podcasters. It's for podcasters and it's done by podcasters. This is a place where we all come together to raise each other up. And this is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So let's get sailing and introduce our guest today, host of the Give a Heck podcast, author of Give a Heck, How to Live Life on Purpose and Not by Accident. Please welcome Dwight Heck. Dwight, how you doing, man?
Fantastic, Rory. If I was any better, I'd be a twin, man.
I, I, I say the same thing. That's why I'm laughing so hard. I think I've used that line probably 100 times. I've never heard anybody else use it
Oh,
back.
I've used it. I've used it hundreds. I've used it millions of times. I've been using it since my kids were little, and they're knee high to a grasshopper. And Dad, why do you, when people ask you how are you doing, do you say, if I was any better, I'd be a twin? I says, I don't know. I just think that, if I had somebody else to put up with you guys, I could live a better life.
Ouch.
I used to tease. Oh, I tease them about it, right? I'm a jokester, though. You haven't figured that out. I have fun. I'm
That's
I'm
awesome.
serious. I'm serious when I need to be serious, but I can also be serious with a level of humor.
Okay. I think we're in good shape then. That's awesome. All right. Hey, Dwight, tell everybody. I mean, in case anybody hasn't heard of you, and I think probably already have because you've been doing this for quite a while, but tell everybody who is Dwight Heck? What are you about? What brings you here today, brother?
Who is Dwight Heck? Well, I don't know how far back you want me to go, but I was at one time I was a part of a sperm and an egg. But anyway,
Maybe not quite that far.
not that quite
We
far.
only have an
Okay.
hour, man.
Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need the visual of this. I was a kid that grew up in a small farming community. I only had, of 10,000 people. My dad was a very, very successful entrepreneur, owned a farm equipment dealership, and one of 18 kids. My mom was one of nine kids. I'm only one of three. I'm the baby of the
Wow.
family. So, I grew up in a farming community, dealing with farmers out in a lot of relatives, farmers, and just really, had some health challenges, but my dad was always the type of person, I had the yin and yang. My mom was super kind and soft. My dad was kind, but very, let's go do it. You got to get the job done. You're 12, come to work at the shop in the summer. I want to do this. No, you're coming to work. And, taught me a work ethic. Was in my 20s till I finally realized how much I actually learned from my dad and mom separately and how together they helped me forge ahead to pave my own path in life, not the path they maybe thought for me, but the path that I thought was what I needed. And I'm still working on it, brother. I'm in my late 50s and I still working on being the best version of me. And, I don't think that'll ever change, but I ended up opening shortly after I went to electronics engineering school at a technical college in Canada here, and I started blowing up things at a company called Canadian Standards Association in the U.S. They use UL ratings and stuff. I used to do that stuff. I used to blow things up, burn things to the ground, flood things. It was fun. All right, but at the end of the day, they are having troubles with their computers. So I ended up helping them with their computers. I won't get into the details of it, even though the details seem to enthrall people that I actually accomplished that. And I changed into the computer industry. From there, working on the side for them, I ended up getting a bunch more contracts and had to quit working for them because I was too busy on this on the evenings and on this side. So I ended up that was my first true entrepreneurship besides being a paper boy. People laughing right now, I get it. Paperboy. I had to collect money. I had to go and rain, snow, storms. I had to deliver the paper. I had to collect money. I had a door slammed in my face and they wouldn't pay their bill.
Yep.
That was my first real entrepreneurship at 12. And then working for my dad and just the list goes on. But I ended up doing the computer company and I started a consulting firm, but I burnt out, had some major health issues, and ended up being approached to get into the financial services industry. And this all leads up to how the Give a Heck brand and how I created what I created. I got into into the financial services industry. Short story about that. My friend called me and he says, you know what? You're a six-figure income earner, but he says, I've known you for a long time. And we had already been friends for probably 20 years and a very successful man. He says, I think you should look at getting into financial services. He had pivoted, sold the company, and had gotten into himself. He says, you're great with people. You're not good with money, though. That's what he said to me. You're not good with money, though. And I'm going, well, like beep beep to you too. That's basically what I said to him. Wasn't beep beep, but anyway, you get what I'm saying. But so I ended up. He says you should get licensed and you should get into this industry, and these people will train you. Well, to put it short, normally to get the licensing done for majority of the population, that because I still have my computer consulting firm running, takes 6 months, 8 months. I did it over a weekend. I got the books on a Thursday. I paid the fees to write it at the provincial office for the American State Office, and I had my kids the whole weekend. Remember Blockbuster?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Stack of VHS tapes, brother. Okay, kids, there's another one. Okay, I'll quit for a bit. I was studying. I had little kids in my lap, and I'm studying. Right,
Yep.
and dropped them off. There's time to go back to their moms because we had joint custody on Sunday night. I stayed up all Sunday night. Went in, hadn't had any sleep. 8:30 in the morning, I was there. Wrote the exam. Walked or drove back to where the office was, where I got the books from, and I walked in for the guy that was going to be training me, and he says to me, I had it behind my back, and he goes, "Why are you so sad?" So what do you mean, what am I so sad for? He says, "That's okay." He comes over, puts his arm around me. "You'll do better the next time." "What's next time?" He says, "Well, you got to write the exam again." I says, "Well, this says I don't have to." I pulled out, and it was back, and it's still no computer. It was just a handwritten slip with what my mark was and stamped.
Nice.
And his face dropped. He says, "Are you kidding?" He says, "We have licensed agents around North America, and nobody's ever done that." So there started my career, right? September 19th. It took a couple months to get all the documents and everything they needed and me to stop doing in my company as much. And I got my license September 19th in 2002, pardon me. And, it started me on a path of realizing how many businesses and how many people are not relationship driven. And they
Hmm.
started training me, and I fired my trainer after 6 weeks and said, this isn't what I wanted. I only agreed to get into finance so I could truly help people, build relationships, and not feel like that outcast like I felt because I'd gotten so many bad information over the years. I'd lost money, bad advice because some guy wanted a commission or some girl wanted a commission. Not and nothing against that. They got to live, but they don't have the tools to actually connect with me, to realize what my dreams and aspirations, to teach me life skills in order for me to embrace the financial rules of life, money rules of the money game part of me. You need to work on your 6 inches, the money monsters, the life monsters that have been instilled with you throughout your life. So, and it was just frustrating, but I ended up doing the first year 8 grand in commission.
Hmm.
And as I was developing my practice based on relationship, goal setting, budgeting, 6 inches between your ears, like how can I help you so that you stay on the path that we put you on and you don't fall off? Or if you fall off, you have enough tools to get back on, or you're confident enough to reach out, just building a better human being. And I ended up in the next year. So in the first year, closing September 2003, I made like 8 grand. From September till March, I did 147,000, and I placed in the top 10 for North America for personal production against people that had been in the industry for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And they come to my office all the time because I had an office I'd bought, like I was renting, and had licensed people in my brokerage and stuff that I'd brought on myself already and was training. And like, how are you doing it? Building relationships. What do you mean building relationships? Actually listening to the client and what they want. Well, I do. Okay, what's your average sale per client? And I told him it was like in average commission over, let's say, a year working with them, because I take over everything about them. I become their best friend. They become my friends, right? Get invited to weddings, birthday parties. And I used to say to them, I said, I just listen. And I said, an average commission for a family for me could be, upwards of 10K. over a year and a half, right? Oh, we're lucky if we get 1,000. Well, what are we doing wrong? Listen. So that's the first piece of advice I'm going to give people. And I took that into my podcast world, creating my podcast. The worst thing we can do, and you've heard this tons of times, Rory, people are always listening to talk. And it's a true skill to listen,
Wow.
be able to still formulate a thought to respond. It's called critical thinking, developed over years of reading books, conferences, now listening to, maybe the last decade, listening to podcasts, listening to good audiobooks. The list goes on. You're not born with critical thinking and critical listening skills. You just aren't.
Right.
It's taught to you in your environment, or you teach it yourself. So that's one of the things I tell people. So I started doing training in this brokerage to hundreds of people. I'd stand on stage and get flown out to, talk to people about how to do things. The sad thing is, no matter how many conferences I did, how many workshops I did, et cetera, I eventually quit doing that when the pandemic hit, because I got tired of the fact that less than 1% of the people would actually engage.
Hmm.
They were there. I was talking to a captive audience that felt they just had to impress somebody by sitting there. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. That's why I'm
Right,
laughing. I'm like, man, I know exactly what you're talking about.
right, and it just got, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I can change your guys' lives. I'm not the next coming, but what I am is somebody that's truly passionate, and I'm a tenacious person. I don't give up. So once I decided I was going to do finance and I didn't want to go back to my computer stuff because of health issues and what I had gone through, I literally just figured it out and kept on figuring it out. And guess what? I'm still figuring it out. I'm still getting better. I still I have to take courses every year, and I usually to keep my licenses. And I usually only take. I don't. Some people take the easiest courses. I try to take ones that are going to change me,
Hmm.
that are going to continue to develop me. Some of them are based on how to run your mindset. Some are, what I mean? There's specific courses, and I'm working on that right now for my new credits for this year that goes into next year. But people just don't. You need to learn to listen, and that's what I tell people. So I continually developed that. I left that brokerage and started my own in 2007 because I was tired of the mentality of that office where it was always press hard 3 copies. It was not about really developing people, and I wanted that. I didn't want to use people. I didn't want to develop. I wanted to develop. Pardon me. I wanted to develop people. We all utilize one another, but we don't need to use one another. That's one thing that people don't know the difference between, right? You can utilize one another and our skills and talents, and we can exchange um, synergy. We can exchange business. Like I have clients that have, like, for an example, a tire shop. I'm going to deal with them because they deal with me, right? It's called supporting your own community that you create, right? So hopefully I'm not rambling on, but this is useful information. But at the end of the day, I ended up continuing on with that. And just, I'm not going to want to make people sad, but this is a true story. In 2017, my granddaughter passed away. She was 4 years of age, and it took me into a spiral. And I didn't realize how much of a spiral it did and how much it was affecting me. I'd always tell people, "Oh, I'm just great," and I was trying to support my daughter who lost her daughter, obviously, and everybody else. And I just sort of spiraled. I wasn't really climbing. I had gotten to a point in my life where I was in, I was trying to convince myself I wasn't in the valley of despair, but I was. I
Yeah.
didn't know how to climb out of it. And I wasn't admitting to myself that I was. So fast forward to 2019, I was kind of in a slump. And when the pandemic hit, my friend reached out to me. It was beginning of March. He says, "There's this thing coming on." It's the same guy that wrote the forward for my book, Tony Watley, super amazing man. And Tony, which he has a 1% podcast, by the way. He may be good for your show. He's a good friend of
Wow.
mine.
All right. Yeah.
His name's Tony Watley. He has a 365 Driven podcast. He's not on Podmatch, but he literally said to me, "Okay, guys, had a call with everybody. Everybody get on the call." I was part of his mastermind, part of his group, like his free group. And we messaged and he says, I'm going to have a call. Everybody come on that wants to come on. Okay, it looks like the country's going to shut down. Looks like North America possibly. We don't know if this is going to be 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. Where are you going to be on the other side of this? That's what he said to us. Where are you going to be on the other side of this? Are you going to be like everybody else, stuck the same place or worse? Or are you going to actually do something and change your life? You might have time on your hands you've never dreamed about because of circumstances of your career, your industry, your business. Where are you going to be? And he started us on a challenge. And this all leads up to podcasting and why I became who I became. Because at one time, I'd walk across the street if somebody wanted to interview me. I'd be at a conference and want to put me on camera. I was like, okay, you got me on the camera to have me up on the big screen. That's fine. No, I'm not interviewed. I was terrified. And he says, okay, I got a challenge for you guys. And this was real life things that he had done for himself to get past that fear. He says, I want you to start doing videos every single day. Every single day, I want you to do a live video. I thought he said live, but he didn't. So this is another part of the story. He says, I want you to do videos every single day and get confidence on the screen and talk about whatever. Try to keep them under 10 minutes and blah, blah, blah. So the first day I recorded it. And then I thought maybe I listened to him wrong. So I talked to one of my friends that was in the group too. I said, did he say live or recorded? He said live. And I never checked with Tony. I just, okay. So I started day 2 doing live videos, 837 daily live videos I did after the fact. I never missed one day. Why did I quit on day 837? I just lost my drive for it, right? I had gotten it down so perfect. I was doing 1 minute videos. And you could call me, text me, and challenge me all the time. I said, okay, my daughters, with my son, everybody, it didn't matter who it was. They'd say, hey, think about this. And I had a running log, which I still have, in from journaling in OneNote, which is a Microsoft product. Have it on my phone. I'd be listening to another podcast. I'd be listening to the news or listening to sports, watching a show, talking conversation. People would say something. I'd go, just a sec. Or I'd be driving. I'd tell it to leave a note with one word so it would trigger so I wouldn't forget it. And I'd have people challenge me. And I'd say, okay, I'll talk about that. I'll do it for a minute, no problem. And I kept on building that creative muscle, that muscle to respond in an instant. And that took me right into podcasting because now I could learn to listen and respond critically without having to think about my response while you're talking. And your talking is more important than my talking, right? Isn't it? It should
100%.
be,
100%.
right? So
Absolutely.
you gotta listen well. So I ended up developing that muscle over 837 videos. I could literally I had people, a guy sit one time beside me and says, I'm going to give you a comment. I bet you can't do it. I said, okay, tell me. Okay. Set up my phone, went live. Okay. I just been challenged by my buddy here to do this. I basically started it, right? To do this on what he asked. I can't even remember what it was. Right. And I'd have a timer running. And at the last 5 seconds, I'd be going, thanks everybody for, please remember, I always give a heck. God bless you all and peace out. And I close it off always at a minute. And I got to a pattern where I did that for about 6 months of that 837 videos. So leading up to that, he said to me after 30 days, we'll go back to that. He says, who can do it for another 30? I said, I can. Okay, we get to 90. He says, who can do it for another? He says, okay, we're at 90 days. There's only 5 of you left there was about 50 or 60 of us. There's about 5 of us left. Who can do a year? I said, I can. Got done the year. Who can do 2 years? I says, I can do it. And I did it. Right. So I just, after 837 videos, it wasn't that I had honed it enough where I didn't need to do it. And I was looking for a out. And the pandemic hit. Same guy invited me to a podcasting forum to come on to, friends, now they're friends of mine, the 2 guys that run it. They teach how to be a podcast guest, and you get interviewed live on podcasts during this event, right? And one of the ladies that interviewed me is a world-renowned podcaster who's been podcasting before they started calling it podcasting. Her name's Patty Catter. She has Wake Up with Patty Catter. She gets 2.5 million downloads an episode, and she had me on as a guest, right? And she and I just clicked, right? American, right? She lives down in Florida. We just clicked, and we communicate all the time now. She's just such a sweetheart. She said to me, I think you'd be really good at podcasting. I really liked our conversation. I says, oh, nah, I thought about it. I don't know. I don't even know where to start. Good. She says, I know where to start. And she started sending me information. Had a video call. Here's my production company. Do this, do that, get this together, and give me a date you're going to start it. I was just like, wow, right?
Nice.
That's how podcasting started for me. I guessed it quite a few times before I started my show, and Patty and I just clicked, and that's how come I started my podcast. And the Give a Heck, Brad, people were so it was March, April of 2020 during the pandemic, and people were throwing out names, what I should call my brand, what I should call stuff. And when we finally got to, they said, what the heck, this and that. Well, I looked at Give a Heck, and I thought about, obviously you want to get the website and you want to get all this stuff ready. And then I thought to myself, when she was pushing me, she says, well, what do you call your podcast? This is, well, I don't know, maybe keep it along the same thing as my personal brand, Give a Heck. She goes, well, what's it going to be about? Well, I've done a lot of good things for people over the years. And when I hit that valley of despair, or I hit a lull in my life, it would be nice if somebody would showcase me and say, hey, you know what? You're a pretty important person. I like you. And I want other people to like you too. So, you know, that's what I did. I started having people on that, resonated with me. A couple different podcasting services. Found Podmatch to be the best. I still have another one I utilize. And then I probably get 15, 20 emails a week to be on my show, just sent to general email, right? It's just that it's amazing. And people say the same thing. I've never had this experience where somebody talked to me and it wasn't just, here's a bunch of interview questions and there's, you know what I mean? And I do it. Like I did a podcast earlier today. I recorded a podcast, and the guy he was just blown away. He says, well, what do you do for prep? So I showed him, right? I'll show you. This was the prep for the show, right? He goes to me, he says, you're going to read all that? I said, no, that's the conversation we're going to have. What do you mean that's the conversation you're going to have? Well, I've built the conversation. I've built the flow. So I won't have, once in a while, I'll look at it to make sure, and you'll see me write the odd note, something you said, or I'll check off the fact that you brought that up in the conversation. I don't need to ask it. And so when you ask me something, my critical mindset's already set to know how to respond, so I can fully listen and engage with you, right? It makes it so I can do it even better. I keep on building
Absolutely.
that muscle, Rory. So that's why I put, and he says, how many hours, what does it take? He says, from the moment I apply till my show goes live, how many hours have you put in? 4 hours, not including what my production company puts. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I go on your website. I check out your social media. I read your website. I check out if you got books. I want to understand. I actually Google, Dr. Google, tell me about this person, right? And they go, wow, are you serious? Why do you do all that work? Because you're investing time with me. I don't have to pay for it. And I'm investing in my client, not my clients, my guests. I'm investing in them, but I'm investing in the people that are willing to put themselves out there to listen to this episode. Maybe it's a real sore, raw spot for them, and they need to. It's going to really hit home with them. And I said maybe that one guest won't resonate with this person this week, but next week they're back.
Yep.
I'm not looking for continued people to listen from episode 1 to where I'm at now, which I do have, but I'm looking for people that are really need to give a heck about their lives, or maybe they give a heck about their lives, but they're stagnant. Doesn't that happen to us, Rory? We get
All
stagnant,
the time.
and we
Yeah.
listen to that special person, and they just spark our engine, and away we go. So Give a Heck was designed and developed during the pandemic to showcase all the people that were locked up in their homes or going to a job wearing a mask where had plastic dividers between them, and they were just fearful of life. And I wanted to showcase the fact that they're still worthy. Even during the pandemic, their story needs to be heard. And you don't have to stand on the stage or fly all over the world to hear it. You can put on a podcast. And I just had so much encouragement. I've had so many fabulous guests. That's how the Give a Heck podcast started. And then it led into me writing a book. Started that in 2020, released it in 2021, took about 5 months between, editors and people going through it. And I just realized that, hey, one day it was like a light bulb moment. My brand ties together with my business of helping people, showcasing clients, letting them know that they have worth, that they can, that somebody's hearing them, somebody's listening to them, somebody's going to help them change their lives. And then they go from that podcast, or pardon me, from me, that they can go to my podcast and listen to other people such as me and realize that, hey, there is a lot of people out there that want to support and uplift and say, you are worthy, you're a good person. And my book starts with my origin, ends with my releasing the book and starting the podcast. And that's how it started, brother. It was, I just wanted to showcase people because I felt alone. I went a 7 week period during the pandemic where I never got a hug or seen anybody because my son had moved out for a couple of years. He's now moved home. My youngest, my adult son, said, "Yeah, move home. We're in a big ass house. I don't want to be alone. Come home." So, he moved home. But I was alone for a couple. I was alone for a couple of years, and I went 7 weeks without seeing any human contact, and it was a driver. It kept me mentally sane, working on the brand, working on everything, right? So sorry for the long run on, rambling on story. I'm gonna have a drink of water now.
Not at all, man. You and I are just cut from a very, very similar cloth. So that's why I'm just sitting there nodding, going, "Yep, yep, that sounds right." I mean, I do all the same things. I mean, this is here's there's my notes,
Yeah.
on you, same thing, everything. So I agree with everything you said there, brother. I mean, you got to prepare. They're giving you your time. You got to make it worth their time. And man, I just can't get into the whole, So, Dwight, what got you into, reading a list of questions? Just makes me insane. You got to have a
No.
conversation. That's what it's about.
Well, the conversation's great. Like the gentleman I interviewed this morning, he was just floored because when we got done it, he said to me, because I'll say, "Do you have a hard stop time?" He told me, and I had it done 4 minutes before his hard stop time, right? Because we visited a little too long before I hit record.
I'm starting to see a
Right?
pattern.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I just said to him, I said, "Yeah," and I showed him. I said, "See the check marks? Our conversation." He says, "Well, you didn't look down." I said, "Well, I already knew it. You said this, and I knew what I wanted to ask because I had generated I had put the effort in for the conversation."
Exactly.
He says, "I don't know if I could do that." I said, "Well, everybody's teach their own." But I said,
Right.
I'm so selective. I think I've only been on 50 podcasts as a guest. I turned down most of them because when I researched them, this is me. This is what I've created. I'm not gonna. I have people that say, "Go on every single podcast you can." No, I'm not. I have to resonate with the host too that I'm being on with. I gotta have that fuzzy feeling, right? So
Right on. Well, good for you. I mean, you've earned that though. You've been doing this for a while. You've built this up, So I mean, you've earned the right to protect the brand that you've built and not just throw it out there to, be in anybody's hands. So yeah, there's nothing to feel bad about at all. Very,
yeah,
very cool.
so it's been a fun journey. Hopefully there's lots of other things I could have put in there, but then we'd have to have like a 10, 12, 13 part series.
Maybe that's coming in the future. I don't know. I mean,
You should, hey, you know what? If you want to start that extra podcast, I have thrown this out to so many different people. I'm looking for somebody to start a podcast with where we can co-host it together. And it could, I'm willing to talk about this outside of the podcast because at the end of the day, it's really hard to find people that you resonate with,
yeah, for sure.
right? That you're at the same
Hmm.
frequency or emotional IQ, right?
Exactly. Right.
Right? Can have a sense of humor, but be serious when they need to be serious. Can
Yeah.
turn it off like this. Can be cordial, be kind, um, understand how to get rid of associations in a polite way, but still move forward in your tribe that you're trying to create, and not feel guilt because there's people in your life that are toxic, that are family, and learning how to deal with those toxic members because it's still part of your family unity and you have one or two events a year. It's just always driving myself to not let people poke the bear. Like I used to always tell my kid, kids, what happened with this conversation? They'd come home and they'd be sad. And I'm an empath, by the way, which I only found out in the last 4 or 5 years. I actually had two empath coaches. One's become a real good friend of mine. Did some testing
Huh.
on me, and I could never figure out why I pick up my four daughters' emotional stuff all the time, or people around me, and why I can be so, centered. And really, all of a sudden, people say, "Well, oh wow, you really get into the emotion of your conversations." Well, I could never figure out why. Well, being an empath and being with my kids and stuff, I'd always say to them, you come home and they'd be upset. What's going on? Well, blah, 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 blah. What did you do? Why do you always have to take their side? I'm not taking their side. What did you do? What do you mean, what did I do? There's always somebody that instigates, but it takes two to tango. It can be 90-10, but I don't care. Well, I said this and this and this. Why'd you poke the bear? Well, they said something stupid. So just because somebody opens their mouth and removes all doubt doesn't mean you have to. I wasn't harsh with my kids. Obviously, I talked to them in a lot different tone, and it was
Sure.
age appropriate, right? I started teaching them the difference between needs and wants. I started teaching them between don't poke the bear, always be kind, and if you're going to give somebody a compliment, you better darn well be genuine. Because I used to go to the store shopping with them, a single dad, right? Calculator to make sure I could afford everything and stay within my budget as a finance dude. I used to show them all that stuff, right? And they literally would say I'd go up the store up at the till. It can be a convenience store, grocery store, a department store. And I always look for things good people from people. Oh wow, you're really busy. Has it been a crazy day? Oh yeah. Well, I was watching while I was in line. You're very good with people and you're very efficient, right? Or wow, that's a nice blouse you're wearing. Hey, that's a nice tie, brother. Or hey, that's a nice ring. But it always be genuine. And my kids would leave the store, Daddy, why did you say that to that lady? Did you see what her look was? Oh, she was smiling and she was so happy. I might have been the first good thing that happened to her in her life. And why do I bring this up? Because this is life, even in the podcast. I'm here to uplift people. I've been on podcasts where you feel like you need to go take a shower after you're done. It's like, what the WTF is going on? I just feel disgusting and I get off of it and going like, man, like it's okay. I always tell people on my podcast that when I'm interviewing them, Rory, we can have different opinions as long as it's polite and kind. We can agree to disagree. If I think something's too tense, you're going to notice me changing the subject and say, hey, we're running out of time. We got to go on to the next thing or whatever.
Yeah.
You're welcome to. I don't want to be in a room of yes people. I want to be in a room of people where we can have a great conversation where we can agree to disagree and walk away. And they have to follow my 70-30 principle, which we don't have to get into, but that's what I've been coaching on now for about 7 years. And it utilized it and it changed my whole life. And why do we have to be associated with doughheads? Why? Why do we have to be associated with people that are negative? Why do we have to be associated with people that aren't at the same wavelength? And that's not to say that I'm better than anybody. I'm on a different journey. I'm not camped. I'm on the climb. So many people in life are on a hamster wheel. Go to work, go home, get paid. Go to work, go home, get paid, right? And they wait for the weekends. They jump on their bandwagon addictions. And it doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. It can be TV. It can be sex. It can be just being sad and angry and going, it's Friday, but Sunday's coming. You know what I mean? It's like, what the
I know
beep,
exactly
beep,
what you
beep, right? Or they're happy Saturday and they drink their faces off and they're the greatest people around. And then Sunday comes up and then what? I got a hangover. Oh, tomorrow's work again. I got to go work with that person that's just such a jerk, and that my boss doesn't appreciate me. My staff doesn't listen to me, right? Why did
Wow.
that client go somewhere else? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because of your attitude. Well,
I,
guess what?
I
I
love
don't
this.
sugar. I don't sugarcoat stuff. Sorry.
Okay. You know what? What's really funny about all this in the background is that you're actually sitting here telling everybody about your podcast. They may not know it, if they don't know you, but your entire podcast thing is you cover the whole financial thing with folks talking about budgets and money in and money out and the whole nine yards. Your theme for it is live on purpose, not an accident, like get the most out of your life, live your best life type of stuff. It's everything you're talking about right now. You're just not starting the sentence with, so on my podcast, this is what I talk about. You're, you're still
Yeah.
telling everybody what your stuff's about.
Well, and
It's awesome.
and to be honest with you, 240 episodes, I've maybe had 10 that were about finance. The rest are all just showcasing people,
No
dude.
kidding.
My podcast is not finance. It is not. I've had Robin Williams chef on, and he was hilarious. He's about burnt down Robin Williams' house. I've had a lady that survived the killing fields of Cambodia. I had another lady that her family run the Kinder Morgan transport train to get Jews out of Germany. I
Holy
had
cow.
right. I had also was
Wow.
blessed to have. He's a good friend of mine now, and we just visited here recently. He used to be an opening act for Robin Williams as a comedian, right?
Man.
I've had the guy that created Tony Robbins' Firewalk program, right? Yeah, he was amazing, and he's best friends with Tony Robbins. Created his Glass Walk and his Firewalk program. I had oh, what's his name? Oh, I had the guy on that is the connector for stars to people, and he connects people to like people like Elton John and people that you know what I mean, and the stories he told about Elton John and stuff. I've had some. Oh, dude, 240 episodes. It's not focused on money. It's focused on people,
People. I love it.
their achievements and how they've risen above the dust or being on the ground and scraped up and battered, gotten up, put a band-aid on the boo-boo, and they're out. They've changed their lives, and that's what excites me. I'm the number one fan of my show for people listening. You know why? I get to pick who's on.
Right? That's
I get
beautiful.
to ask. I get to direct the flow of the conversation, and I take it darn serious. I don't care if I have one listener. Why is that? Because I'm listening. I'm getting something out of it. Pick me. Right?
I
How
love
many
that.
podcast hosts don't want to admit that you should be the biggest fan of your own show? If
100%.
you don't have that passion, how do you get the right person on? How do you know you're getting the right person on? Like my goodness, I had a guy, I had people on. I've had AI experts. I've had everybody and anybody. Now I got to think about it because even though I should know, like the guy I had on this morning is he's oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I have brain farts once in a while. That's what age does to me. Um,
That's all right.
digital. He's a digital nomad,
Okay.
very very wealthy. And listening to his origin story, like it'll release next week, and his origin story was amazing to how he got started traveling with friends around the US to realizing he could do his real estate stuff, his investing on a laptop no matter where he is, and now he's living on a yacht outside of Virginia before he goes back to Bali for another 6 months once the weather's, you know what I mean, just super nice. He's on his yacht and I'm recording with him this morning. It was kind of cool. And it's just showcasing him because how many people want to be a digital nomad and don't realize the pros and cons? So I got into the heavy gritty of it too with him. I asked him, I said, hey, it's all fine and dandy, social media glamorize it at all. What do you think about that? Right? Let's talk about it. And that's why my podcast is hard to keep under an hour. It's just I can't be mechanical, Rory. I can't just say, here's 5 questions. Rory, answer them and go bugger off. See you never. I want to create relationships, brother. I just
I
like
think
my
it's perfect.
practice.
I think it's perfect. You brought up your 70/30 principle, and that is something that, people probably want to hear about. Why don't you just tell everybody what that is?
Okay. Well, at one point in time, I thought to myself, people would always say, well, 50, if you're both given 50-50, that's good enough. That's the garbage. Absolute garbage. I don't care if it's you and me as friends, to your children, to your significant other. I don't care what it is. You've got to put in more than 50% because 50% is just, to me, that's a cop out, right? Now, if you're doing 50-50 and okay, we're going to do this workout in our yard, you do that half, I do that half. That's different, right? I'm talking about the connection and what you tolerate, right? So here's the thing. If it's a 50-50 thing and Rory and I are friends, And Rory posts things on social media. Rory has a newsletter, and I'm not saying you have any of this stuff. I'm just using you as an example. Rory posts videos. He has a YouTube channel. We get together for coffee. And to put it to the 70% 30 principle, 70% of the time, what you post, say, whether it's in writing or verbally, I can jive with. I'm like, hey, yeah, that's pretty good. I like that Rory guy, man. I can't wait to see him again. You're walking out the door or you're leaving the restaurant. We went for coffee or your video is ended. And I'm going, I can't wait till the next one. And 30% of the time, it's going like, Rory, you're kind of off today, man. Did you forget to eat your Wheaties? Like, you're just, I'm just not jiving with you. I'm still excited to see you the next time. I realize everybody has off days. That's life, right? But once Rory starts anything, if you're morally apprehensive in your comments, you're racist, you're whatever. I don't care if you are that. Keep it between your ears. It's called a filter. And here's a phrase for you that everybody should live by. And I'll wait till you're not drinking because I don't want you to spit it out. Right? It's better to be thought an idiot than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Right. 100%. Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
You can think whatever, but don't say it to me if you want to still be in my sphere, my circle, my world. I want to be in your world. You want to be in my world? You better not be a poor person. We'll just put it at that. I was going to
Gotcha.
say something else nasty, but I won't. So I just look at people and go, 70-30. And if you ever reach 50-50, you're out of my sphere of influence. You're out of I don't want to be in your sphere of influence. I don't want you to brush off of me and leave some of that residual either. Stay away from me. Like you're just toxic. And with family, people say, well, that's impossible with family. No, it's not. Here's the secret. Thanksgiving's coming up, right? No, it's not, but Thanksgiving's coming up and I got to go see that person and blah, blah, blah. And I got to sit beside Aunt Margaret and she's just so negative and she smells funny too. And Uncle Joe, he's just raunchy. He's kind of ignorant and blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's the secret. Supper's at 5, go at 4:30, right? Go there. Hi, everybody. You sit beside the aunt that smells funny and is so negative and just smile and nod your head. Learn how to change the subject or beg whoever not to sit you by that person anymore or you're not coming. Like it's okay to have boundaries. Everybody heard of boundaries? For those, listening, driving, don't put your hand up, right? Keep your hands on the wheel. 10 and 2. Kidding. Anyway, don't put your hand up. What are you thinking about? Right? What are you thinking about that person? Just, people are people.
Right.
At the end of the day, have boundaries. If you don't want to go, don't go. But I will go to situations like that. And I have the meal. I'll stay another half hour, 45 minutes after to have dessert or whatever, a little bit of conversation. And here's the secret. I say to people, oh, why do you have to go already? I have plans. I'm never lying. You know why? My plan is not to be in that environment. That's my plan. Bye-bye. Right? So you're not lying to them. You're not lying to yourself. You're just utilizing something called words. Be a wordsmith. Know what to say, how to say it to get the same result. You can say things with many different ways and it'll offend. I learned how to say things where I get my point across, and very often I do not offend, right? Because
Right.
I've worked at it. I've worked at my 6 inches. And that's literally the 70-30 principle. I keep my family that irritate me in a very small window. And I'm not saying my family irritates me. I'm just telling you how I teach people.
Sure.
And literally 70% of the time, that person, I better want to see them. They better bring, if I see them in a room and they're across the room and they don't make me smile, there's something wrong. I don't care who it is. I don't care how long I've known you. And when I started utilizing the 70-30 principle, had that aha moment, I started shedding friends intentionally,
Hmm.
right? Oh, let's
Okay.
get together, do this, blah, 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 blah. You know what? I've got something going on. I've got plans, right? What's the plan? Not to hang out with you, right? And at the end of the day, it's what you tell yourself to protect yourself, to keep your boundaries in place, and eventually those people will stop asking. They will, or go hang out with them, but have a different attitude. See how long they want to hang out with you.
This stuff that you're talking about right now, this, who you
So,
hang out with, what they listen to, what they read, these types of things. This is all stuff that you've talked about. Is this what the book is about?
nope, my book starts out with my origin, talks about things that I didn't mention in this podcast about my health issues, bullying, starting my first paper route, being that first entrepreneur and the process of it. Then I talk about how my life, how things happened, and where I got to a point where I didn't understand money. And I talk in there's one book chapter in the book talks about how to goal set. I'm not talking about money, but how to goal set, how to want that next great thing. And
Yeah.
another chapter talks about how budgeting changed my life. Got to realize all of a sudden I went from joint custody, having half expenses to full expenses, right? And I needed to understand that the core thing of all that was understanding the rules of the money game. Even though I'd already been in the industry and I was doing it for other people, I got lazy. How many of us professionals get lazy? We stop, mechanic has the worst running car, et cetera, et cetera. You've heard the story, right? Because they just stop applying things to their own selves. So the book is a progression from origin to where I'm at, just like the podcast and how I want to interview people at your
Yeah.
origin, your process, your trials, your journey, key aspects of things that helped you get past life, right? And it literally is 9 chapters. It's only 145, 150. I never can remember. This is the book for anybody that I don't know if you have this on video or not.
Yep, we do.
150 pages exactly, right? And literally it's 9 chapters. I'll give you an idea. I know I should remember, but again, it's back to that brain fart age thing. First, right? You're not defined by your past. There's a whole chapter on that. You're never too old to start living your dream. Your daily associations mean everything. And there I talk about what we're talking about.
Right.
Because people don't think, what's the first thing people think of, Roy, in regards to associations? People. It's not just people. It's what you listen to, it's what you read, it's
Mm.
what you associate with your environment, what you visualize, what you see around your house, right? You look
Yeah.
up here, that was a birdhouse made by one of my grandkids, like that. Behind me over here, there's pictures of family and grandkids and stuff like that. What am I visually giving? What am I associating with myself? Because we may not consciously see everything or experience everything, but our subconscious does. It affects our moods. It's been proven. Colors of walls, everything. Your
Right.
environment is so important, and so many people don't realize that. So your daily associations, sleepless nights and quiet desperation. I talk about getting my kids and the pain I felt. I'd lay upstairs in bed, and I'd get up, put a mask on, come down. Hey kids, and life was tough, right? And I had to getting back into budgeting because all of a sudden my income wasn't as high because I couldn't work as much. I was taking them to extracurricular activities 7 days a week with that many kids. And I had to get back into how I created my practice, created that relationship. The relationship I needed to create though was back with myself. Do we ever realize that we lose our relationships with ourselves? We do. We just take things and we're on that hamster wheel ourselves. We're coasting, we're camped, and I wasn't climbing. So, and then budget like your life depends on it. One of the other chapters, and none of these chapters are super long. That's probably one of the longer ones. It's like 20 pages. And I have a chapter on goal setting, and then chapter on failure as a learning experience. People go, what? Failure is a learning experience. I'll tell you a little bit about that if you're interested.
Of course.
One of the things that I utilize is everybody uses acronyms, but they use them in, like fear. What does fear mean to most people? False evidence appearing real. I spun that years ago, and when I'm fearful or I'm scared of something, right? What do they always say? You should take it head on. So face everything and rise. That's all I ever think when I hear the word fear. Face everything and rise. Give myself that confidence booster. That how many times in your life, Dwight, have you just run into things and you've taken it on, you've been tenacious, you're not going to let that little B voice in your head control you. You're going to face your fear. You're going to figure it out by yourself or with others. You're going to do what it takes. I don't know what time frame it's going to be, but you're not going to let fear compromise you, right? So face everything and rise. And I always this is one on my Facebook page since probably 2007, 8 when I started it. You could put in little quotes or whatever, right? Fear knocked on the door, faith answered, and no one was there. Right? Fear
Nice.
knocked on the door, faith answered, and no one was there. And faith doesn't always have to be about religion, right? Faith in yourself, faith on what's on the other side, faith that if you're a God-fearing person like me, a Christian, that you're gonna get what you need to survive, and sometimes it'll be more because you are a good person.
Yeah.
You've given more than you've ever gotten, right? You're gonna
Yeah.
be taken care of, right? So, and the pivot change is the key. And then I do a chapter on children, and then there's conclusion, right? It's just very straightforward. We did it with the publishers. I wanted big print so it's easier to read for visually impaired people like us. And right.
Right.
And I they taught me a lot. It's got to be done at a grade 8 level. So it's easy for people to digest.
Hmm.
Right.
No kidding.
And
All
I
right.
and I've had I've one of my biggest fans, and we're still fans today. She's now 22. She was a high school girl, wrote an article about my book for her high school paper about her two favorite authors. Talked about another author I wasn't familiar with, and me, and how they impacted and shaped her life. Her father sent me pictures of her watching my podcast in her big home theater room, and she was sitting there taking notes. I'm serious.
That's
So
cool.
people listening, you can impact anybody. I don't care what age you are. You can live a purposeful, intentful life. You do not have to live it by accident. And by accident, it could be your learned behaviors from childhood, right? You are not unique in the sense that you're unique with like your fingerprint, but you're not unique in the challenges and things that you face. And that's why I created the podcast so that people could hear that, oh my gosh, that person's been through that. My stuff is theirs seemed insurmountable, but mine is
Yeah.
surmountable. I could fix it. Maybe I'm the spark. Maybe the guest, not me necessarily, but the guest is a spark. The guest is real, right? The guest is somebody that they can just go, wow, listen to that person's origin. This ain't a traditional podcast where they just start, yeah, what's your back end story, Dwight? Oh, I hate that one. What's your back end story? My back end story? What do you mean? Childhood? No, your business. Well, yeah, but what about my life before my business? What was the story behind that? What was the
Right.
drive? What got me where I'm at? Did I have any trials and tribulations? Oh, a shit ton. I had a crap ton of trials and tribulations, right? But how do I face them, right?
Yeah.
What have I done in my life? I've been on the personal development train since 1993 when a gentleman friend of mine, same one that drove me into getting into finance, said to me, here's some books. You need to read them. How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? Dale Carnegie, right? And then you look at The Magic of Thinking Big,
Mhm.
right? Schultz or Swartz. I can't remember the author's name. And now I'm drawing a blank on the third book. And then he kept on giving me books. He gave me books by Og Mandino. He gave me books by Stephen Covey. And then I joined the book club that he was part of. And they're all entrepreneurs getting books once a month, right? Was in
Love
that
that.
for a few years until I discovered the power of Audible a few years ago. And now I listen to books
Yeah.
because I read so much in my business with contracts, with client files, all their documents that I read at night now. I'm just like, puts me to sleep, but I can put on my books. I have an Audible account. I got tons of good books. I think one of my favorite books that helped me also with relationships, which directly would help me with my podcast, is Five Love Languages. I've
Hmm.
I've read it. I've read it twice, and I've listened to it 3 times. And that book isn't about just your significant other. It's about relationships with people. It's about
Right.
looking at people and being a student of human nature and listening to what they say and giving them what they need. If you're a person that likes affirmation, like, you like positive words of affirmation. I'm going to make sure you're a pretty handsome dude there, Rory. Like, my goodness, I bet you had to beat the women off when you were a young lad. I said truthful though. Sorry, I apologize. Anyway, I could be a jokester. I'm sorry.
No, it's all
All
good. I love that I have no idea where you're going from moment to moment, man. So it's all good. You're keeping me on my toes.
right.
That's
I
perfect.
hope you're enjoying yourself.
That's absolutely
But
perfect.
yeah, at the end of the day, we have a responsibility. I believe we were put on this planet as individuals to serve others, right? First and foremost, those listening, those watching, person you serve the most is you. Because if you are like me in the past, I let myself serve everybody else, and I was an empty vessel.
Yeah.
My tank was always empty. I was getting through the day, and 8, 9 o'clock at night, kids are all picked up from extracurricular, kitchens cleaned, helping them with homework. And before any of that happened, over the homework, or if they wanted to watch a show together, if there was no homework, I'd say to them every night I did this. And they finally know now. I told them as adults, I'd go up to my bathroom in my master bedroom and I'd close the door. Sometimes I didn't have to go back. Sometimes I just sat on the floor over by the vanity. I just sat down and it was just like, oh please God, help me. I'm struggling. I'm not thinking the best. Help me. I still got a few more hours yet before I could go to bed at 2 a.m. because I'd still have to do laundry. I'd have to make lunch. Oh my gosh, and I did this for years. And I'm not looking for people to, oh, superstar. No, they didn't ask for any of this. And I realized, kids of a divorce aren't asking for this. They need support. They need comfort. They need empathy. And maybe the whole circumstance happened and I got put into this position by the universe. If people don't believe in God and you believe in universe, whatever, got put in this circumstance because I was able to adapt. Maybe not as quick as I should have, Rory, but I adapted enough to be able to raise my kids, and they're all functional adults. And the most happiest thing I am about it all, none of them went to jail yet. So that's been
That's a
really a
positive.
blessing.
That's a positive. That is a positive, brother. Oh my goodness.
Right? So, at the end of the day, it's just I am who I am. People are going to like me or they're not going to like me. I'll never say things that are going to be callous and hurtful to you, right? Even if you push my buttons, I'd sooner walk away, be the better person, because
Right.
to engage, have I ever engaged? Absolutely. I'm talking about things I work on so I don't engage. I don't let people poke the bear. I don't let people create that uncomfortableness and I've learned my body triggers over the years too. My chest tightens a certain way, my shoulders go. I've learned those triggers, and my brain just goes, oh, something's not right here, right? Step back. Why is the person? And then I started applying that to other people, human nature. Why is Rory, whenever I go near him, stepping back like that? Did it, I'm pretty sure I didn't eat anything too spicy at lunch, but I don't know why Rory's stepping back. But I started looking at Rory leaning, or Rory, I'm talking, and Rory all of a sudden we're three, four people, we're all talking, standing there. There's a group of people, or I'd be on stage talking to people, and I watch Rory's crossing his arms. What did I just say? And it's like your brain is so quick.
Yeah.
Oh, I just said, well, you know what? I noticed some very off. If I said something that triggered you, I apologize. But, feel free to just yell out whatever and we can discuss it, or whatever the case may be. Giving people that opportunity to know that you really give a crap about what they say, that you really care, is a tool that falls into podcasting, isn't it?
100%.
You want to know that I care
Absolutely.
about you if you're my guest. And as a host, you should want the same,
Yep. Yep.
right? We're all doing podcasting for our own reasons. Mine's completely a passion driven project, and my account gets choked for how much it costs. But whatever. At the end of the day, it's a passion driven project that I started during the pandemic to highlight people and that need and desire and right for people to have their voice heard is always going to be forefront for me. Now that I've discovered it, how can I quit? Because
Yeah.
I'd be quitting on myself, right? What message am I selling myself if I all of a sudden quit? Look at all the people Alex from Podmatch. Now it's 5 to 8 episodes that people podcasters make it, right? There's 3.8 million now podcasts and only less than a million of them that are active. Why is that? It's a bright new shiny toy, Rory. I'm going to start podcasting. They don't put any effort into it. I
No.
was blessed. People, things happen for us, not to us. Patty coming into my life, that happened for me. And she helped me. And being my finance guy, being analytical, it was easy for me to realize that I needed to have all my ducks in a row before I started.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I still remember the first podcast I did was just introducing myself. Number two podcast, the first guest podcast I had was my friend Tony Watley. And I think he would be good on your show
Yeah.
with his 365 Driven podcast. He just always just been there for me. I've been to some of his private events where they have 30, 40 people. They don't do retreats. They do advances. He says, I'm not retreating, I'm advancing. Right. And they're small. We all get together, hike, and we meet up in places. And I met up with them a couple years back in Portugal, and we went wine touring and hiking together, and we just hung out. We had a half day of business meetings to teach us some stuff, but the rest was all about connection, unity, relationships, people, listening, developing skills, right? And what better way to do that over a glass? Maybe you're not into drinking, but some of those wines in the Port Valley of Portugal were pretty good, right? So I just had a blast. I just had a blast, right? I've embraced life. I hated life at one time because I thought it was unfair, but the only thing that was unfair was the fact that the learned behaviors I had allowed to control me, I had to take ownership. That controlled me, I needed to give up. For me, I give them up to God now. All my shallow things that I think about or things that are sorrowful, and I just keep on pushing forward. And I just know that I have to learn that life is in session. This is not a dress rehearsal, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if tomorrow was promised. I just went to a funeral yesterday of my good friends over the last 15 years, and his dad passed away suddenly at 79. And you listen to the stories, and this doesn't try to be morbid, but you go to a funeral or a celebration, whatever you want to call it, and they do the eulogy, and you learn, and then people come up and tell stories and stuff, and I think that's kind of neat because I get to know the person that I didn't know. Like I knew his dad to see him over there, wave at him and stuff, but I didn't really know him. I know his son really well, and it was just I left that and I came home and I thought, and my son come home and says, "Hey, Dad, how did it go?" I said, "Oh, I learned some great things about the neighbor Brian. I get to tease him about now when he was a kid, some of the stories that we're talking about, and he knows that well, right? Brian is a pretty good guy, and it's life. Life is in session. I don't know if I have it tomorrow, so my promise today, I'm putting every single ounce of effort I can to make this podcast good. The one I
Right on.
recorded myself this morning, good. I want to look in the mirror tonight. I want to lay in bed and having gratitude and gratefulness that I practice every night, and I go through a self-awareness process. I want to do all that so that if I don't wake up tomorrow, I left the earth on a positive note, right? If I wake up
Right.
tomorrow, it's a start. Thank you for allowing me to be alive. Thank you for giving me another day. Okay, let's go and slay it. And I don't know what I'm going to face. But then all the little things like 70/30 and all these other things and associations and all the things that I teach my clients prior to ever talking about money makes a difference. Practice what you preach.
Nice. Great advice, man. I mean, nonstop all the way through the whole thing. Absolutely great advice. You're basically doing a whole masterclass on, how you ought to be living your life, which is just
I know
refreshing.
it should be.
It's
I should be
great.
focusing more in podcasting, I guess. But that's what my podcast is. Oh, it's my life.
That's what I
It's
mean.
not my
Yeah.
life. I don't mean it's my life, but my life comes out of it.
Yeah.
It comes into it. It's intertwined now, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm so picky about who I have on my podcast podcast. And at first I was just like, oh, I'll have whatever on it. Oh my gosh, some of the people I had on were great people, but oh, scary,
Yeah, I hear
right?
you.
You ever look on Podmatch some of the comments they have on there?
Oh yeah.
Like I mean, you go into Podmatch and you go into the guest profile and look at the reviews, or you go into the hosting profile and you look at the reviews. And I was looking at some of these podcasts that have been around, and I go on and I do read them. If I go on in a podcast and it says they're a new member, I might still have them on, but I'm going to research them. I don't trust I'm not saying Podmatch. They put that info in there. Podmatch isn't verifying squat.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I go and I read those reviews. If they have a podcast, I'll go and see if they've had any reviews on Apple or Spotify. Getting people to leave reviews, man, it's like worse than it's painful, like getting teeth pulled. It's hard. Like, why don't you want to give people a review? Just like my book. Oh, I loved your book. It was awesome. Somebody told me this just in the last couple of weeks. Oh, awesome. Did you put a review online? No. Could you? Oh, sure. One guy I've been asking, he's a good friend of mine, 4 years, like 4 years. He tells people about my book and we're together. But why can't you leave a review? Go on to Amazon and type in "give a heck." It'll come up with the book and type in there, "I really enjoyed this book. This is what I learned," or "this book sucks." Whatever. At least put some effort into it, right?
Give me
Right.
something. After 4 years, give me something.
Give
Give me something I can
or
work with.
I can't stand the people that leave reviews and they can leave a comment or stars. I had somebody do that, give me 4 stars on my book, and their handle can be whatever, so you don't know who it was. Every other review is 5 star, and they give me a 4 star. What? Your mouse didn't slide that far?
It must be a mistake. It's
Like,
got to be a mistake.
oh, it's got to be a mistake. Come on.
That's right.
Like, did I not smile enough when you were watching, or maybe I didn't have enough cadence or tonality?
There is that group of people that just don't think anybody deserves, the 100%. Nobody deserves 5 stars because nobody's perfect, right? So, I don't take it personal, man.
Oh, I don't. I'm smiling. I don't take it personal. I just go like, why? It's one of
Right.
those. It's one of those things I'm never going to get an answer for, because who knows what's the truth and a lie.
Right.
But at the end of the day, on Podmatch, so like I look at all the reviews that my guests have given me, because after I'm done recording my podcast, 30 minutes after, it automatically triggers everything, and they get an email from Calendly saying, please rank and review, because I use Rate This Podcast. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I've heard of that.
Uh,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
works awesome. I started using it about 2 years ago. My reviews started going. Now I was getting a few reviews all the time, not consistently, but it clicks on it. If you click on it with your phone or you click on it on your computer, it automatically knows where you listen to your podcast, and then it gives you a quick button to go and rank and review it.
Nice.
Right? Cost $130 a year, $140 a year, and
Hmm.
you can create your own custom links. Rate This Podcast, it's called. So mine's Rate This Podcast / Give a Heck, right? And then people can actually go in there and look at my dashboard, and it'll show the reviews from Apple, Spotify, Podchaser. It scrapes and knows all your reviews, right?
Cool.
So
Very
it's pretty
cool.
cool. I like teaching other podcasters about stuff too. I just had a guy that started his podcast. He's using two of the services I utilize for doing show notes to make it easier, and another one for doing it. He's using my production guy, right? The person that does all my production and editing. I like helping people. That's what life should be about. You shouldn't always have to get something back except for a thank you or a smile,
Yeah.
gratefulness you can see in their face, right? And he was a
Very
guest on my
cool.
show. He was a guest on my show. Said he was going to start a podcast. Said, you need help? He says, really? I said, when we're done recording, I'll give you a whole bunch of stuff and I'll email you things too. And I did. Why? Because I could,
Nice.
right?
Nice, man. I mean, you're setting an example for podcasters to follow. I love it. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic.
Well,
So,
but that's like in business. So people hold their little trade secrets in like this, and they're not going to tell anybody in the cubicle next door how they got that sale. Everybody's got a different market.
right.
Everybody's got a different tribe. Everybody's got a different synergy. And at the end of the day, no, I want more podcasters. I
Yeah.
want more people to not quit, to stick with it. And sometimes people quit because they don't have the proper tools to do it.
Yeah. I hear you.
They try doing it themselves, right? They get Audacity and they're sitting there trying to be an editor, and that's fine. If you got time to do all that stuff, go for it. I pay $50 for each episode. Why would I want to do it myself?
Right. Brother, I
Right?
love it. I absolutely love it, man. I got to be honest. If I could talk to you all day, but I've got a hard stop I got to worry about, unfortunately. So
I
I
realize that.
I got to kind of wrap it up a little. But I got to say, if I'd have known that interviewing you was going to be this easy, I would have brought a sandwich. I mean, because brother, you came in, you just took care of it. I mean, I didn't have to ask you anything. You just said, "Hey, I'm going to answer all the questions you might possibly ask me." Done. Perfect. Beautiful.
You know
Told
what
everybody
though?
about you. I love it, man.
That's the best podcast. So I told the guy this morning, I said to him, I said the best podcast is where I don't have to look down to make sure I'm just checking things off. And he goes, why?
Yep.
I said, because you're great. I told him, I said, you're a great storyteller. You're great at weaving and going in between the stuff, right?
Yep.
He says, well, I appreciate that. And then I found out he's a podcaster. I didn't even know, right? He's 30 or 40 episodes in. And we
Wow.
talked about that too. We talked about why podcasts and at the end of the day, it's just, yeah, I love. I didn't realize and it may not seem like it. Those listening won't believe it, but I'm a severe introvert. I had to force myself to be a person. Well, a guy that would run across the road and didn't want to be interviewed.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm an extrovert or an introvert? I'm an introvert.
You're probably an
I
introvert,
had
but yeah, you've
I'm
learned how to
extrovert
be, right?
when I want to.
Yeah. Right on.
Sometimes I record my show or I get off client calls or I'll get done this and I have to go take a nap because it just drains me, right?
Yeah, I understand. I
So
truly do.
I've gotten to this person who jokes around and stuff through work and effort, right? To make people more comfortable so that I feel more comfortable. It's kind of selfish, but it's just the way it is, right? I
Hey, if it
make you feel
works.
comfortable, you make me feel comfortable. We have a great conversation, great synergy, and maybe that 70/30 principle will apply from you to me and you'll want to see me again.
Absolutely. Brother, I love it. I love it, man. Thank you so much because it's been fun just getting to know you, and that's what the conversation's for. So
Yeah.
you shared a bunch of really great stuff, and we got to talk about your book a little bit, which is cool. You told everybody about the 70/30, which is also cool because that's something I think people need to know about. It's good advice. So but man, I do. I appreciate you. And I just something tells me our paths are going to cross again here
I
pretty
hope
soon.
so. I
Yeah.
hope so.
Very
Like I
cool.
said, think about the podcast.
Well, we'll have a
I'm
longer
I'm I'm I'm
conversation.
I'm waiting for somebody to bite onto that juicy worm and let me reel them in.
I see. I see. We let's put it this way: we will have that conversation soon, and off air.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
All right,
You should
then.
reach out, brother.
Very cool.
I appreciate you letting me
I
be
will.
on your show and yeah,
It's been fun.
uh,
Yeah,
it
it's been
has been
fun.
fun.
Thank you, man. Folks, this has been another awesome episode of the Podcaster Nation. I loved every minute of this. I hope that you guys got a lot out of it. Dwight Heck, the host of Give a Heck podcast, the author of Give a Heck, How to Live Life on Purpose and Not by Accident. Dwight, thanks for being on the show, brother. Really appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Roy. This has been a blast. I loved it.
Folks, you know where you are. You know this is the podcast that's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. This is the place, and we showed it again today, where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So keep sailing.